Hello, this is a video about how I preserve my basil. This is the cutting for today. I usually do about a cutting every 2 weeks off of the basil. I have been putting banana peels in a jar and filling with water and pouring the water on the basil, and they've just mushroomed into this huge pile that you see here. So the first thing you have to do after you cut the basil, and this is just, I cut the basil in half because it was growing so big, but I would do a third at a time. But this time of year, it's kind of going crazy, so I did a really good haircut on it today. So take this to the sink and we're gonna wash it. Now, you wanna make sure that it's really submerged well so that any bugs or anything that's on here is gonna let loose. The dirt will fall to the bottom. Most of the bugs, if there's any, will float. This basil looks really, really pretty, so I don't see a lot going on in there. If you want to make sure it's really extra clean, you can throw a dash of vinegar in the water. This is just cold water, nothing else but cold water. And I'm gonna run this, I'm gonna empty the water and run one more run of cold water through it, and I'll be right back. And I like to dry my herbs. I dry oregano, thyme, rosemary, but I hate dried basil. I think it has an anise flavor that comes out more when it's dried. So I wanna show you the way that I preserve my basil, and it's a trick I learned a couple of years ago and I've never turned back. And it's fabulous. I used to only eat basil in the summertime when it was fresh, and this allows me to eat the freshness of basil all year long. So we went to the garden outside and picked, I have an enormous amount of basil. Every 2 weeks I go out and pick basil, wash it very, very good, and here are the leaves that's left. Some of the stems, my basil is really tall, so the stems get real hard and woody. If yours are tender and small, you can use those, but for the real tall ones, I would take those stems off. But basically, all you have to do is we are going to put the basil down into this blender, and you could probably use a food processor. I have this little, it's a very old Ninja blender, and I stuff those leaves down in there, and then I pour a good amount of olive oil. Pour with your heart. You know, you don't want to use your best olive oil for this, but you certainly don't want to use the worst olive oil. Some decent olive oil, maybe. You'll know when it's pourable. You don't want it to liquefy, but we're going to turn this on real quick. So here's the leaves stuffed down in the blender, and we're going to pop the top on. And you know, I really like olive oil. I'm gonna put a little bit more olive oil in here because I really feel like it needs it. That's a lot of basil stuff down in there. You may not have that. And like I said, there's no measurement, so. Okay, let's take the top off and look. And that's perfect. Okay, you can see I have one little piece of woody stem that didn't go in, and that's fine. Okay, so I've got a freezer, little Ziploc bag here. We're gonna take this inside out, just set it to the side, and we're just gonna pour this in the bag. And move this so you can see. I'm going to kind of turn this around like this, try to get all the air out of the bag. And then I'm going to press it flat. And then I have a place in my freezer in the top that these packs lay. Here's what one looks like. This is a pack from last summer that I did. And so what I do is when I have pasta, whatever it is I want fresh basil in, I open this up and I break off a piece and I throw it in. And immediately you can smell it in the room. The smell right now is amazing, but it tastes like fresh basil, not dried basil. It tastes like you just went out in the garden and picked it. So this is how I do mine. I freeze it every 2 weeks. I go get a bunch of basil in the garden, do this, freeze it, have it in the freezer. And I don't know how long it lasts because this is from July of 2023, and I just have a couple more of these left. So these will be gone before no time, and this hopefully will start on this winter.